Tim Nelson. Here's a look at what's going on this week in the news. We begin with news from the Vatican. Pope Francis has released his annual message for local celebrations of World Youth Day. The theme the Pope has chosen for 2018 is the angel's reassurance. Do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God. Many dioceses, in preparation for the next international celebration of World Youth Day in Panama in January of 2019, will have their own celebrations on Palm Sunday, March 25th. Rome Reports has more on the Pope's message.
Pope Francis has sent an important message to young people about the search for vocation. In the letter, divided into 4 sections, the Holy Father asks youth to not allow fear to control their lives. He says this fear can be that of not being loved, being unable to find work, or of God asking too much of them. The Pope urges them to broaden their horizons and not waste these years, before also giving them this advice. Do not allow the spark of youth to be extinguished in the darkness of a closed room, in which the only window to the outside world is a computer and smartphone. Open wide the doors of your life. May your time and space be filled with meaningful relationships, real people, with whom to share your authentic and concrete experiences of daily life. Pope Francis suggests they have the bravery to live in the present, the here and now. In fact, he assures them he wants the Church to have important responsibilities to be given to you. Thus, the Pope concludes with the advice that you may be prepared to take on these responsibilities. It's the message the Holy Father sends every year in preparation for the World Day of Youth, which is celebrated in every city on Palm Sunday, March 25th.
In news from around the country, reactions still pouring in after the death of iconic preacher Reverend Billy Graham. Graham, who had suffered from Parkinson's disease for many years, passed away on February 21st at his home in North Carolina. He was 99 years old. Graham was best known in the United States and worldwide for his crusades or revival meetings, often held in large stadiums that took him to more than 185 countries to preach the message of Jesus Christ. It's estimated that he reached at least 210 million people through his personal appearances and through his radio and television ministries. In 1950, he launched his weekly Hour of Decision radio program that became a staple of Christian broadcasting for 60 years. Reverend Graham will lie in honor at the U.S. Capitol Rotunda February 28th through March 1st. He will be the first person to lie in honor on Capitol Hill since civil rights heroine Rosa Parks in 2005. His body will be returned to North Carolina for his funeral March 2nd at the Billy Graham Library in Charlotte. In news from around the world, February 23rd is the day that Pope Francis declared a day of prayer and fasting for peace, particularly for Congo and South Sudan. Rome Reports explains why the Pope has focused on these 2 countries.
The humanitarian crisis in South Sudan is chronic. In late 2017, the UN sounded the alarm once again. More than 1 million people could die of hunger, and some 25,000 are in catastrophic conditions. Here, the use of child soldiers reaches troubling numbers. An estimated 19,000 have been forced to carry arms despite the latest releases. The civil war that began in late 2013 shows no signs of stopping, and there are now more than 1 million internally displaced.
It's a human tragedy of major proportion. This is like Syria or Yemen. These are the big humanitarian crises of the world, and it is urgent to make peace.
In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the situation has worsened in the last few months. It's the other horrific stage for an endless war caused by a mix of economic, ethnic, and religious interests. The heart of Africa risks blowing up. The situation is one of a country that is nearly adrift. What's most concerning is that the government seems to view the church as leading the opposition. The ecclesiastic hierarchy's mediation has been crucial in reaching agreements between the government and opposition. However, the agreements haven't been fulfilled by the president, and the tension has caused demonstrations to be forcefully quelled. The church estimates more than 3,000 people died from violent causes between 2016 and 2017.
More news from around the world. Archbishop Charles Scicluna of Malta is recovering at a hospital in Chile after undergoing emergency gallbladder surgery February 21st. Pope Francis had sent the Archbishop to Chile along with a Spanish priest from the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith to investigate charges that church officials covered up clergy sex abuse. Archbishop Scicluna decided to make the trip to Chile even though he was not feeling well. Abuse victims allege that Archbishop Juan Barros, then a priest, had witnessed their abuse by his mentor, Father Fernando Caradima. In 2011, Caradima was sentenced to a life of prayer and penance by the Vatican after he was found guilty of sexually abusing boys. He denied the charges and was not prosecuted civilly because the statute of limitations had run out. Officials expected will take Archbishop Scicluna up to 72 hours to recover, and he said he's determined to carry on with the hearings. During the visit to Chile, the Vatican team was scheduled to hold around 20 meetings with people who want to denounce Bishop Barros. And finally in the news, the Metropolitan Museum of Art's exhibit Heavenly Bodies, Fashion and the Catholic Imagination premieres on May 10th in New York City. Included in the exhibit will not only be high fashion meant for the laity, but vestments and accessories from 15 different papacies from the 18th to the early 21st centuries. According to Andrew Bolton, head curator of the Metropolitan Museum of Art's Costume Institute, the loan from the Office of the Liturgical Celebrations of the Supreme Pontiff was negotiated over a period of approximately 2 years and required 8 trips to the Vatican. Bolton said the exhibit will include vestments made by clergy, by designers, as well as works from designers raised Catholic. He said fashion's engagement with Catholicism belongs to a lineage rooted in artistic tradition and continues the ever-evolving relationship between art and religion. The exhibit will run through October 8th. Well, that's all the information we have for you this time. I'm Kevin Nelson. Don't forget, you can keep up to date on Catholic news throughout the week. Catholic Newsbreak right here on the Catholic TV Network.